Okay, 9 through 14 says each pair of figures is similar, which means that the sides are proportional. Find the missing sides, which is the value of x. Now there's multiple ways to work these problems. You can find out what is needed to go from one figure to the x by multiplying or dividing, or you can set up a proportion and cross-multiply and solve. So I'm going to set up a proportion, but just know that's not the only way that you have to work these problems. So on the number 9, this side right here with this angle measure corresponds to this side over here. So the 48 corresponds to the 6. So we're going to put 48 over 6 equals, and then the x, since we started with the 48, we have to start with the x corresponds to the 5. So x over 5. So now we're going to cross multiply. So 6 times x is 6x, and 48 times 5 is 240. So 6x equals 240, and then we just solve for x. So divide both sides by 6, and x is 40. And if you go back to check, 5 times 8 is 40, and 6 times 8 is 48. So that's one way you can check your answer. All right, number 10, you might notice that the two sides that are given on this triangle are congruent to each other. So you're trying to find the other side of this triangle, and this side is 12. So this one, you probably don't have to set up a proportion, and you probably could just tell that x is 12. But I'm going to go ahead and set it up just to show you the proportion. So 12 corresponds to 60, and then x corresponds to 60. And 12 over 60 has to equal 12 over 60. Or if you cross multiply, you get 60x equals 720, and divide by 60, so x is 12. Number 11, same thing. You might notice a pattern that goes from one triangle to the other. Like for here, 22 divided by 2 is 11, so we could do 16 divided by 2, which is 8. Knowing that that 8 is our answer, we can go ahead and just set up the proportion and know that we're supposed to get 8 for an answer. So the 16 corresponds to the x, and then the 22 corresponds to the 11. So 22 times x is 22x, and 16 times 11 is 176. So when you divide both sides by 22, x equals 8. So this side is 8. Number 12, there's multiple ways to set up this proportion just because there's 3 different pairs of sides that are given to you. You don't need all 3 pairs, you just need to pick one pair. So the x that we're trying to find corresponds to the 3. So that's one ratio, and then the other ratio, you can either do 14 to 56, you can do 10 to 40, or this 14 to 56. So I'm going to use the 10 to 40, and then cross multiply. 10x equals 120, divide by 10, so x is 12. And again, you might notice a pattern. 10 times 4 is 40, so 3 times 4 is 12. Same thing on number 13. There's multiple ways to set up that proportion. The x corresponds to 7, so that's going to be my first ratio. And then the other one, I'm going to use the 90 and the 10. So when we cross multiply, we get 10x equals 630, and then when you divide that by 10, you get 63. And again, you can see that you can say that 9 times 10 is 90, so 7 times 9 is 63. Multiplying it by 9, or dividing this by 9 to get to the smaller one. 14, Again, multiple ways. You really don't even have to work this one out. These two sides are congruent, so that means these two sides are going to have to be congruent, so x is 12. But to set this up, we would say x corresponds to 3 and 8 corresponds to 2. So 2x equals 24, and we divide by 2, x is 12.